Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the sometimes completely baffling world of the Norwegian energy market. Now, on paper, this system sounds absolutely perfect, right? We have a totally free electricity market, where we, as consumers, can just pick and choose our suppliers. And the golden rule we've always been fed is that competition automatically brings lower prices. But I am sure you've noticed that when you're actually sitting at your kitchen table, staring at your monthly bill, the reality feels incredibly different. We're hit with this massive paradox right out of the gate. We have ultimate freedom of choice, sure, but that freedom doesn't mean comparing prices is actually easy or intuitive. Honestly, the main problem we're facing isn't a lack of options. It's that there are just way too many tiny hidden conditions completely dictating what you actually end up paying out of pocket. Okay, let's really dive into this. Picture this scenario for a second. You and your neighbor live in the exact same price area. You both have a spot price contract, you both experience the exact same weather, you're on the exact same power grid, and you're reading the exact same news about energy prices. Yet, when the end of the month rolls around, you somehow end up with wildly different electricity bills. It feels like a total mystery, right? How is it physically possible to buy the exact same invisible product at the exact same market rate and pay completely different amounts? Well, the answer is actually hidden in the architecture of the contract itself. As we're going to see, the spot price is literally just the baseline. The real magic, or honestly, the real financial drain, happens in the shadows, long after that spot price has been calculated. To solve this mystery, we've got to expose the ultimate rule of choosing an electricity provider, which is simply this: follow the money. Let's compare two neighbors. Customer A has a contract with a super low markup and zero fixed monthly fees. They are practically just paying the raw market spot price. Now look at customer B. They also have a spot price contract, but theirs is totally loaded with a high markup, a heavy fixed monthly fee, and, to make matters even worse, they originally signed up on this flashy introductory campaign that secretly expired 3 months ago, so now they've been quietly bumped onto a much more expensive standard rate. They're both paying the exact same base price for the electricity itself, but customer B is just hemorrhaging money entirely through those hidden terms. This really proves that you can't just compare today's price. If you do, you are almost definitely going to lose money on the conditions that kick in later. So, where exactly does the money vanish? Let's kick off the investigation. The public consumer guidelines actually tell us to look right past the slick marketing and examine the nuts and bolts of the agreement. Basically, there's an anatomy to an electricity bill, and we've got 4 main culprits here. First up is the påslag, or markup, which is the supplier's profit margin baked into every kilowatt hour. Then there's the fastbelopp, or fixed fee, just a flat monthly charge. Third, we have campaigns. You know, those tempting introductory prices that act like a 30-day honeymoon before automatically dumping you onto a miserable standard rate. And finally, lock-in periods. These literally trap you in an uncompetitive contract when the market shifts. Now, I know it might seem like we're just splitting hairs over a few pennies or a tiny monthly fee, but think about it. When you multiply these tiny extra charges across thousands of kilowatt hours over a whole year, especially if you're charging an EV or running a heat pump, these tiny amounts snowball into massive, totally unnecessary expenses. Let's isolate that first major factor, the markup, or as it's locally known, påslag. The absolutely crucial thing to understand here is that this is the supplier's direct profit margin, and it's added to every single kilowatt hour you consume. Because it's tied directly to your volume, it's a variable cost. So if you've got a large family, maybe you live in an older, drafty house, or you're charging an electric car every single night, your energy consumption is naturally going to be high. And when your consumption is high, even a seemingly invisible markup of a few extra ore per kilowatt hour acts like a crazy powerful multiplier. Basically, the more electricity that flows through your meter, the more money quietly flows straight into your supplier's pockets. Right, so let's look at the flip side of that coin. The fastbelopp, or the fixed fee. This is a flat monthly charge in kroner that just hits your bill every single month, completely regardless of whether you use 1,000 kilowatt hours or literally 0. This fee exists for one primary reason, and that's to guarantee a baseline revenue for the supplier. But here's where it gets dangerous for you. If you live in a small apartment, or if you just generally don't use much electricity, a high fixed fee will utterly destroy the value of your contract. You essentially end up paying a massive premium just for the distinct privilege of having them send you a PDF invoice once a month. It makes your actual effective price per kilowatt hour astronomically high compared to someone who just snagged a no-fee contract. When you put all this evidence together, a really clear picture emerges of today's electricity market. The absolute smartest contract you can sign is almost never the one with the loudest marketing, the flashiest app, or the biggest banner ad screaming first month free. Honestly, the real cheat code to saving money long term is predictability. It's all about finding a contract with transparent, incredibly boring, and highly predictable terms that aren't going to secretly change on you after a 30-day honeymoon period. Avoiding those flashy campaigns and choosing long-term structural clarity instead is, for sure, the best way to protect your wallet. But wait, here is a plot twist for you. The energy efficiency trap. Imagine you decide to do something genuinely great for your home and for the environment. You invest in some serious insulation, or maybe you drop some money on a brand new, highly efficient heat pump. You'd naturally assume your electricity bills are going to plummet, right? Well, your current contract might actually have something to say about that. Here is exactly how this trap springs. First, you upgrade your home. Second, just as you hoped, your total energy consumption drops way down because your house is incredibly efficient now. But here is the catch for step 3. If you happen to be sitting on a contract with a high fixed monthly fee, that flat fee hasn't budged an inch. Because your total usage is now so much lower, that static fixed fee suddenly makes up a disproportionately massive chunk of your total bill. By doing the right thing and lowering your energy usage, you have accidentally turned your flat fee contract into a terrible financial deal. It just goes to show whenever you alter your home's energy profile, a good contract can instantly transform into a completely awful one. Okay, let's resolve all this complexity by looking at the 4 main customer profiles. If you strip away all the clever, fancy names that suppliers give their products, you'll find that essentially every electricity contract out there fits pretty neatly into one of 4 simple boxes. You can kind of think of this like a financial personality test. First up, we've got the spot with low markup. This is for the price-conscious, highly active consumer. It's usually the cheapest over the long haul, but you do have to accept normal day-to-day market price variations. Second is the spot with high markup. The target user here, basically anyone who just doesn't compare prices. And the risk is silent overpayment. You're literally just handing over free money for the sake of convenience. Then we move into fixed prices, which, let's be honest, act way more like an insurance policy than a discount. A 12-month fixed is great for someone wanting predictability, but the risk is you might overpay if the overall market drops. And finally, the 24 to 36-month fixed. That's for the hardcore long-term planners who want 0 surprises whatsoever, but in exchange, you sacrifice absolutely all flexibility. You just have to find your profile, and boom, you find your ideal contract structure. So, now that you know exactly how the mechanics work, how do you actually outsmart the system on a practical level? Honestly, it just comes down to adopting the simplest, most effective routine possible. You absolutely do not need to check electricity prices every single day. Just follow these 4 golden rules. Check your contract terms at least once a year. Always review your contract after moving to a new home because your consumption patterns are guaranteed to change. Absolutely review it after buying an electric vehicle since your total usage is going to spike. And, as we just learned with that efficiency trap, always review your deal after making any energy efficiency upgrades to your home. We've uncovered exactly how this market works, where the money magically vanishes, and how to protect yourself against those sneaky hidden markups and fixed fees. The public data is super clear on this. The very best choice is always the one that fits your specific consumption with absolute, crystal clear transparency. So I'm going to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought to chew on. Are you going to log in and check your contract's hidden terms today? Or are you going to just continue silently overpaying to fund someone else's profit margins? The choice, and honestly, the savings, are entirely in your hands.